Hey there, everybody. This is your favorite host, Christopher Renne here of The Chris Renne Show, and a host on Pints at the Round Table as well. Before this show starts, make sure you give our pages a follow at mbasementprod on Twitter and Instagram, and our Pints at the Round Table pages. MB Pints on Twitter, Pints at the Round Table 1 on Instagram, and like us on Facebook at Mom's Basement Productions. If you're feeling generous and are giving out quite a bit of followers, give me a follow at Chris Renne MB on both Twitter and Instagram. Thank you, and enjoy the show. Welcome in, everybody. This is episode 42 of the Chris Renne Show. This is your host, Christopher Renne, and we're going to get right into it today because there is some huge news in the world of sports. Absolutely huge. And if you haven't heard yet, which you probably have because there's been 83,000 articles written and 4,300 podcasts recorded. So, listen to this one because I'm going to give you a true, honest opinion of it, a non-biased opinion of it, and I'm going to give you some background on my thoughts on why this should have happened sooner and why Magic Johnson never sort of had any idea what he was doing. So to get started, we're just going to go through what happened last night. There was this impromptu sort of media session where Magic Johnson abruptly resigned. That's what happened. He stepped down as Lakers president, and after a 2-hour sort of press conference, the Lakers no longer have a president of basketball operations. A big quote he said on why he didn't want to do this job anymore. I just didn't want my emotions of me loving the Lakers to keep me in this role. That kind of harps on a lot of what I've been saying. It seemed like he was put into this role because he's Magic Johnson. He had no history of being a successful general manager. He wasn't a great coach. He's not built for these roles. Magic Johnson's fun. He likes to flare. He likes to smile. He likes to be the funniest, most charming guy in the room. Those are the things Magic Johnson likes. Magic Johnson doesn't like the grind and the tough decisions that came with being the president of basketball operations. So he brought in a former agent in the general manager, Rob Pelinka. Neither of these two had any experience running a front office, and it showed multiple times, whether you look at not re-signing Julius Randle, whether you look at the way they handled the Anthony Davis situation, the way they handled the young guys and the Anthony Davis situation. None of it was great, and it was very evident that a veteran general manager would have done a way better job in those situations. This goes back to episode 37 of this show and episode 38, where I talked about the trouble in Tinseltown and the triangle of the Lakers. There's 3 triangles fighting for the lead of this sort of team, and it's a struggle that keeps going. But now that one of the points of the triangle is gone now, it's a line back and forth. You had the Genie Bus, Luke Walton side of the triangle. You had the Magic Johnson, Rob Pelinka side of the triangle, or point of the triangle, and then you have the LeBron James, Clutch Sports point of the triangle. Well, the Magic Johnson, Rob Pelinka one's done, and Genie Bus gave the okay to Magic Johnson to fire Luke Walton. So, over the next coming days, as the season comes to an end and the Lakers are not in the playoffs, Luke Walton's more than likely going to be gone. You're not going to have a president of basketball operations. You're not going to have a GM. Going into a very crucial offseason for the success of the Lakers in the future. The Lakers need to sign a marquee free agent, and you can't do that without a general manager. The Lakers need to sign multiple free agents. They have to move a lot of these pieces of the roster around. And they have to get veterans to replace the people leaving on their one-year contracts. Magic Johnson talked a lot about not being able to sign shooters because they wanted 3-year deals. So he ended up with Rondo, and he ended up with Lance Stevenson, and he ended up with JaVale McGee, and he ended up with Michael Beasley. All guys who probably couldn't fit in the locker room with LeBron's expectations. Rondo had his moments. Michael Beasley was a complete disaster. JaVale McGee had one of the best years of his career from an effort standpoint. You know, Lance Stevenson made some people dance, but he's Lance Stevenson. He's not a consistent player. He's not a guy you can trust. He's a good shooter, but he's not a shooter. If you've looked at the teams LeBron had success on, it was teams with grown-ups. It was teams with players like Mike Miller, Shane Battier, shooters, but veteran shooters who played in championship and playoff teams before and have been in big moments. Guys you can trust to do the right thing in the right moments. You look at the Cavaliers, they had Richard Jefferson. He was old. Channing Frye, older guy. He wanted Kevin Love, not Andrew Wiggins, a veteran. And you keep going down the list. JR was a guy who was a good friend with LeBron, and he took him in, and he made JR a really good player. Albeit that one play in the NBA Finals where he should have called timeout or went up with it right away. You keep going through the list. You keep it going. Just the roster makeups, the guys like Kyle Korver. On the Heat, you had veterans like Udonis Haslem, James Jones, all sorts of stuff. Even like an older player, a 37, 38-year-old Ray Allen was on one of the Heat teams, hit one of the biggest shots in NBA history. Those guys understood their role, understood what they wanted to get out of the team, and understood what the situation was in all cases. In Miami, it was Chris Bosh, it was Dwayne Wade, and it was led by LeBron James. The best player always takes charge. Look at any great team in history. James Worthy was an awesome scorer for the Lakers, but it was Magic Johnson's team. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, once again, unbelievable scorer for the Lakers, but at the end of the day, Magic Johnson was the best player and the one reason that team was as great as it was. You look at Michael Jordan, you had Scottie Pippen, players like Steve Kerr, John Paxson, Horace Grant, Dennis Rodman, a bunch of know-your-role guys. And those are the guys who make a championship team. You look at the Warriors today. They have Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, Kevin Durant. And we could even look at the Warriors before Kevin Durant, before that fourth superstar, when they just had Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green. They had Andrew Bogut, an absolute know-your-role guy, just a tough guy, one of the best passing big men in the game, and he fit the system perfectly. You look at Sean Livingston off the bench, a guy who knows exactly what he is. He's a passer, he's a creator, and he's got a sweet mid-range game. Good defender, too. Andre Iguodala, not the greatest shooter, but he can hit a corner three every once in a while. He can hit a three. He attacks the rim, and a great passer. So a common theme with great teams is they have a great system. You have those 90s Bulls, the triangle offense. You have the 1980s Pat Riley Showtime Lakers. It was all, there's a system. The big three system with LeBron was LeBron. The Cavaliers system with LeBron was LeBron. Now, you add Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love to that, it worked. You add Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh to that, it worked. So if LeBron truly wants to have success with the Lakers, he's older, he's going to have to buy into a system. So, with all that being said, you don't have a GM, you don't have a president, you're not going to have a coach. Going into year 2 of LeBron land Lakers, this isn't a good start. And you're going to have to make one of the best hires of all time, Jeannie Buss. And there's not really a long list of candidates who really fit the expectation of the Lakers right now. You have the ones Jerry West, David Griffin. There's quite a few names across the league that you'd want. The Myers guy from Bob Myers from Golden State. There's a lot. And when they hired Rob Pelinka, that's who they thought they were getting, was the next Bob Myers. But no. But when Bob Myers took over as the general manager, Bob Myers is an absolute grinder. Bob Myers loves the process. There's not many GMs that are great in this league. There's a lot of really good GMs, but there's not a lot of great GMs. So, listening to some guys talk about it, there's different opinions on which route the Lakers should go. I honestly should not know the name of the guy the Lakers hired as their GM. It should be a guy who's known well in basketball circles for his brain and what he's done coming up through the works. Someone in the Rockets organization, someone in the Warriors organization, but don't try to go for Daryl Morey or Bob Myers because you're not going to get them. You need to find that guy who's in those systems. Similar to, if you've ever seen the movie Moneyball, there was Billy Beane, but then there's this guy who worked for the Indians, this Paul DeBattista guy, who knew so much that Billy Beane didn't know. And Billy Beane was running a team with no money, and they made it work because they thought outside the box. And with this Lakers hire and having LeBron, it's going to be a lot of thinking outside the box. So a good plan for me is whatever GM you bring in a coach LeBron's familiar with. So you bring in a no-name GM, not a no-name, but a big name in basketball circles, not in circles outside of basketball. If you're not deeply involved in basketball, you shouldn't know who the Lakers hired next as a GM. There's some top candidates to place Magic Johnson. I'm going to look at this list real quick. I'm going to see how I feel about them. I'll read them off to you. Don't worry. Don't you worry. We're here together. The first one, like I said, David Griffin. I think it's a great fit. He has experience with LeBron, so he knows exactly the type of roster you need to construct to have LeBron. The next one is Jerry West. Not a fan of that. He's 80 years old. Great basketball mind. And if you could take him away from the Clippers, do it, but not to run the whole show. This list has Rob Pelinka. I don't think so. It didn't work when he was with Magic. This list says Phil Jackson. That if they hire Phil Jackson, I mean, Jeannie Buss has a romantic history. There's a lot of, no. Danny Ferry, all right. He built the 60-win Atlanta Hawks of 2015 before controversy cost him his job. He's now the interim GM of the New Orleans Pelicans. See, now, if I was the Pelicans, I'd hire Danny Ferry right now before the Lakers come in and try to take him. So that's a good idea. Danny Ferry is a good GM. Here's the first type of guy I was talking about. Gerson Rosas. He's the top aide to Daryl Morey in Houston and was briefly the GM of the Dallas Mavericks before returning to the Rockets after only a few months. That is said to be his one issue on his resume. I don't know if he has what it takes to be a general manager. I mean, if that happened already, no. But this is the type of name. You got to look at a top aide of Bob Myers, a top aide of Daryl Morey. These guys who are thinking of the league in a way that not others are. This is an interesting one. I've talked about his name. As players, you need to be around him. It's Shane Battier. And this article by 24/7 Sports says Shane Battier is probably going to be a GM someday. It's just a matter of when. He's a current vice president of basketball development and analytics for the Miami Heat. So he's got the background in the work. And Shane Battier has been a grinder his whole career, and he loves the craft and he loves the process. He quit a cushy journalistic media personality job to be in basketball and be in the front office, which shows you that this guy's got the cojones to get the job done. James loves Shane Battier. Shane Battier is one of LeBron James' favorite teammates of all time. Is he experienced enough? But I think you throw experience out of the window. You bring these guys in. You bring guys like Shane Battier in, VP of development, VP of something. You hear what they have as a plan. You ask around the league, other general managers, what they think of this person, because they all know each other. And if he gets good reviews and people are like, this guy, because a lot of employees are not going to be talking about these guys badly. Nope. And then the last one's Kobe Bryant. If Kobe wanted the job or wanted a job with the Lakers, he'd have it. But Kobe already said he wasn't going to do it. I think that Kobe-LeBron tandem could be interesting. I think it's one of those things that really could. But hopefully getting some of those examples, you can understand what type of guy I'm thinking of. Because in Los Angeles, the Lakers are known for just hiring stars, But it started and build the Showtime Lakers. No. Dr. Buss was not a star yet. He wasn't a star until they were built. Pat Riley was not a star yet in NBA circles. He was a good coach. He was. He was a good player. He was an NBA player for the Lakers, for the Phoenix Suns. He's been around the block, He came in as an assistant. He worked his way up and became the head coach for the Los Angeles Lakers. As a head coach, he's a 5-time NBA champion. He took over for the already built Showtime Lakers and took them to a next level. So it really shows that even the biggest names started somewhere. So you don't need the big name. If you want Pat Riley, it's not worth it. Pat Riley's not leaving. He has a very nice executive position in the Miami area. He's been working as an executive for years in Miami. And he's won titles in Miami. He likes Miami too. Will you take him away from it? No. And I don't know if Pat Riley would want to work with LeBron again. So I don't think that option's even close to being an option. David Griffin would love to work with LeBron again because he knows the potential of having LeBron as your star player. And you have a 3-year window. And this window is closing fast. LeBron's groin got hurt this year, but he still averaged 28, 7, and 7. You're going to need a couple more stars, and LeBron's going to be less of that locomotive leading the way and more of a conductor on the train. He's not going to pull everything along anymore. He needs that help around him, and he needs a GM who can get it done and put a team around him that can truly win a title. When I look at the young guys, I look at how Brandon Ingram was playing before his blood artery injury, and he was playing really good. You look at Kyle Kuzma, he lost his jump shot the second half, but besides that, played really good. Lonzo Ball is one of the best defensive point guards in the league already, and it's only year 2. And if he can stay healthy and stay on the floor consistently, the Lakers are going to be a really good team with just LeBron and Lonzo. Those are 2 guys who make players around them better. Now you add in some spot-up three-point shooters who would work perfectly with Lonzo and perfectly with LeBron James. You continue to build around the young guy, and you need a GM who's willing to make those tough decisions. You can hear it during the New Orleans Pelicans argument or the trade talks that the Lakers were just kind of putting trades into an NBA 2K trade machine and saying, hey, you want this trade? And then they'd be like, no, all right, we'll throw in Kyle Kuzma. Okay? And they'd be like, no, we still don't want that trade. All right, now here's Brandon Ingram too. No, we don't want that trade. All right, here's Lonzo Ball. And they're lucky that the Pelicans GM prior to getting fired got really petty with the Lakers, disrespecting him and throwing in that low ball offer to start. because they would have lost half this young core, and you need this young core. The Lakers can be great for a long time, especially if you can keep them after LeBron's tenure there. So all in all, this Magic Johnson stepping down was kind of a big deal, but the story's going to keep continuing. We're going to find out who's going to be the next general manager, the next president. We're going to find out fast because they have 2 months to do it ahead of a lot of the better teams because of the NBA playoffs. If they can get working on that, they can start asking and interviewing other people's personnel and staff. So we're going to hear it. Just keep your head in the news. Come back to this show. I'll probably update you weekly until all this stuff's figured out. We'll probably do another free agent show. I'm going to look more into it. Keep remembering the names. Tobias Harris. That's a big free agent. I think can really bolster the Lakers. And I wish I could remember the other one off the top of my head. Give me a second. I think it was episode 40. Yep, so Tobias, Chris Middleton were the two that are names that came to my mind. I knew it was a two guard. All right, so look for Tobias Harris and Chris Middleton in the future from a Lakers success standpoint. Alrighty, so my Lakers predictions, there they are. My MLB predictions are actually not doing too bad right now. We could take a look at those real quick too, since we're looking in the past. And I've got that same document open with him. Let's just go take a look at the MLB standings after the first, month, we'd say. So, shout out to the Tampa Bay Rays for making me look bad there. They're not doing as good as I thought. So I've got the Indians, the Yankees, and the Yankees are doing bad. But they're in second place. I think the Yankees will figure it out long before the Red Sox do. I think the Red Sox have a lot more turmoil than the Yankees. I think the Yankees are still a pretty good pick. They're still in striking distance. The Indians, 7-3, first place. The team that surprised everybody in baseball, the Mariners, are 11-2. But not too far behind are the Houston Astros, coming off of that disappointing playoff performance last year. Then you go to the National League. I had the Phillies and the Reds and the Dodgers. So right now 4 out of 6, and I'd say, or 3, I think I'm at 4 out of 6, right? That's what I said. So the Phillies are in first. The Reds are in last, so that was a bold prediction I tried making, but it's not playing out all great so far. And then the Dodgers are in first. So I think once the Reds hit a win streak, you look at the Astros will probably end up taking it. The Yankees will end up probably taking it. I think the AL West and the NL West were pretty easy predictions. I think the Phillies are one of those teams that are going to win like 96 games, win their division. I think my picks are still, they're all in striking distance except the Reds. And if I go 5 out of 6 with one single hot take in there, that means my 5 true predictions were right on the money. So, with predicting stuff, there's a topic of conversation that really, really is bothering me. And it's bothered me for the last couple of years. And without the Magic Johnson, so luckily enough, I've been having trouble coming up with the talk to at the start of my show. I've waited an extra day to record because I wasn't sure if it's a show I wanted to do. Yesterday I did a public speak. I was burnt out. I had a lot of other school stuff going on as well. So I saved it for today and got blessed by Magic Johnson stepping down. What an opportunity for me to start my show with that. But the main topic prior to me doing the Magic Johnson start and the LA Lakers start was instant replay in sports. And to me, instant replay is constantly ruining sports, whether it's oversaturation of replays during the game, because it really, as a viewer, just hurts when the game's just getting good, and then something happens. It's like, oop, we got to go review. And in football, in the NFL, they've sort of gotten it down. But watching some games in person at Ohio State and watching a lot of college football games last year, there was a lot of times where they went and reviewed and the call stood. I think there's really some unnecessary processes that go into reviews. And then you look at the examples of the Final Four recently with the amount of replays they did every time. And when I went to the Ohio State Purdue basketball game, there was a couple replays, but a lot of them happened during TV timeouts that were naturally happening, so it still flowed pretty well. So they just go during a TV timeout, review a play, review a three-point shot. It didn't really stop the momentum of a game. But over and throughout the NCAA tournament, there were so many reviews that I'd change a game, I'd come back, and they'd still be reviewing. And that means the review is longer than a given timeout. And you have players standing there, you have coaches coaching, you have them. With 8.5 minutes, they could go up and down the bench and tell them each what they're going to do the next 5 minutes of the game. Easy. So that's just an innate strategic advantage, especially when you have the better players. So there's the oversaturation, but there's also examples of them missing replays in crucial moments. And those shouldn't go happen. You look at the big one in the Rams-Saint game where the DB came over and hit the receiver. I think his name was Nickel Roby-Coleman, hit the receiver, and nothing was reviewed. It should have been reviewed, but you can't review a penalty. I think making pass interference reviewable is one of the most obscene decisions in sports history. I think that's a judgment call on an official, and officials are going to miss it. But guess what? Since the beginning of football, there's been referees, and it's a game of human error. Football specifically, basketball, baseball, it's a game of human error. And yes, we have the technology to where error should be lessened. But I've got a point coming up after I talk about this. It's okay. So we're just going to start with it, actually. I think refs are getting lazy. I think they're over-reliant on video review. There's no way a ref in the 80s misses that pass interference call in that Rams-Saints game, because guess what? He knows it's not going to review. And if he misses a call, everyone's going to scorch him for weeks. So it's become human nature altogether to rely on technology. When you have a question, you ask Siri, or you ask Google, or you ask, what's that Amazon thing, Alexa. And I really think refs are getting worse because of it. The constant rule changes in sports. I know technology's new to it. I understand that. I know in college football review wasn't added to it was pretty recent compared to the NFL. I remember the first Madden I played had challenges, and that was Madden 2002. So even the video game had challenges. So with the advancement of technology, the advancements of smartphones, with the amount of cameras and the frame-by-frame rates of this technology, I've said this to a lot of my friends over the last couple of years, is if you slow anything down to super slow motion, and I've heard a lot of football guys say this, and a lot of basketball pundits say this, you're going to find something. You're going to find a foul. You're going to find a penalty. You're going to find something that went wrong. It's the truth that on every single play, there is one offensive line that could be technically holding by rule. But if you called every holding penalty, it would really lessen the integrity of the game. And yes, people are going to grab each other. It's a physical sport. Sometimes someone's going to get a hand on a strip. That shouldn't be a foul. Sometimes a person's feet look set when you're going frame at actual live speed, but when you go frame by frame, his heel moves slightly. Technically, that's not a charge. Technically, that's a blocking foul. He is moving, but that doesn't mean it was a blocking foul. The ref should still be able to make a decision on what he saw. And yes, refs are bad, but I just told you why. It's because they're so reliant on technology. It's because they know if they mess up, it's going to review. I think there should be a couple rules added to reviewing in sports. I think there needs to be a holistic governing body for review officials. So it's not run by leagues. It's run in conjunction with leagues and television. Because reviews are hurting ratings. When you sit and it keeps happening over and over again, and when there's an 8.5 minute break in a national championship game to see if a ball grazed the pinky to go out, the Moretti guy, every time. So you know what happens when you strip a ball when you're playing basketball? And I wish this was a video podcast today. I wish I had started that. But visualize this, okay? When you strip a ball, when you hit a ball, the ball rolls off your hand. So by the time the hand that strips it leaves the ball is still rolling off the hand. It's a strip. But in super duper slow-mo, there was never a chance that this part of the hand didn't touch the ball. And the strip still happened, and the strip still caused it to go out. So by rule, in a frame by frame look at it, you're going to find that the ball went off his hands. And now that's not always true. Sometimes the hand swipes fully through. But when a ref makes that decision, it should not go to review. And if that happens and you have to look at it for 8.5 minutes, it should be inconclusive at most. The call should stand. I think inconclusive evidence needs to be better explained. I think there's so much with instant replay that is wrong. I'm still going down my list. So I did say they also need to establish replay ground rules for viewers' enjoyment and no unfair advantages to teams. There's a reason there's a number of given challenges and timeouts to coaches. It's because having more than 6 timeouts in college basketball is seen as an advantage and seen as too much. There's a reason in the NFL coaches are given 2 challenges, because if they were able to challenge every call and get it right, they would, and we'd be watching 8-hour football games. So like I said, they need to establish a set of rules for officials to use. Each governing body can work with a video review sort of conglomerate of league officials. And they could come up with what's fair, because each sport's different. Basketball is a game of flow. It is. But sometimes there are some really questionable things that need to be reviewed. And there needs to be a set of guidelines, and I don't have all the answers. But if you put me in that room, I'd probably have a couple things to say. I think there's 2 important things you need to weigh on, and that's flow of game and viewer experience, and they go hand in hand. And I love commercials as much as the next guy, and there's a reason I pay an extra $5 for Hulu. It's because I hate ads. So if you can give me more football and more basketball and less refs looking at cameras and less announcers talking about the same play over and over again for 8 minutes, that's great for me. So that's just a rant I had to go on. It's what I've been thinking about. If you guys have any advice for referees and officials or any comments on how I feel about it, I think there needs to be less reviews. I think reviews need to go to a 1 minute, maybe 2 minute time limit. I think there needs like a flagrant 1, flagrant 2. If it's a tougher decision, you get 2 minutes. If it's a regular decision, you get 1 minute. And with flagrant fouls, it should be pretty easy. Did he hit him in the head? Did he not? I don't see where these refs are so complicated. I think a lot of it's their thought process on how they're going to say it. But that's on them too. They should know the rules. Man, so I've got 3 topics, but I'll save one for next week. Because we'll have a little downtime, hopefully, in the sports world. This next one, I mean, I don't know how long I've been recording for, so, we can talk about the Kevin Durant thing. Okay, so, in the news last week, Kevin Durant, Rick Bucher reported, a couple guys reported that Kevin Durant's done, he's leaving. It's done in Golden State. So there's a few questions people might be asking. Why would he ever do this? Isn't his situation the best in the NBA? And where does he go? And those are 3 questions people are going to ask. Where would he go that's a better option than Golden State? Well, so why is he leaving? Why would he do this? I'll start with that one. I said he's very soft and gets a lot of heat, and he wants his greatness to be recognized fully. So the minute he signed with Golden State, no one respected him anymore. Period. Great basketball player. If he stayed in Oklahoma City, he'd be the best basketball player in the league. No questions asked. Right now. Not because he currently is the most unstoppable offensive player in the NBA. He's a great defender. He's a great basketball player. He's the best player in the NBA aside from LeBron, obviously. LeBron's still the best. I don't care what anyone says. But now say Kevin Durant didn't leave and I still respected Kevin Durant, he might be the best. I don't know. That's an answer we couldn't. But joining up with that super team really tainted his legacy. And no one since then has seen him the same way. Everyone's seen him as soft. Everyone's really said Kevin Durant's a bitch, plain and simple. I really know for a fact that those moments have really added up on Kevin Durant. And you can see it when he snaps at the media. My favorite was the one where he's all like, "You don't care about that, I'm done." And it seems so forced. The fake Twitters, the defending himself, even if, it's hard to say. I think he's a fake tough guy. Obviously, most basketball players are, but I think Kevin Durant is a great basketball player. I mean, I know I joke about it a lot, but he's phenomenal. He's a phenomenal talent. I think we all have to be real. I've watched him in the last 3 finals. Dude's pretty good. I've watched him weekly. The dude has one of the smoothest jump shots ever. It goes in almost every time, it feels like. But one thing he'll never be able to fix with these 3 titles, if he gets this one, is if he gets this 3rd one for himself. And these Warriors get their 4th. Guess what? He's always going to be the guy who joined Steph, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green. He's always going to be that guy. Period. Plain and simple. He's always going to be that guy. And that's going to weigh on him his whole future. And it's very similar to LeBron. If LeBron wins a title in Los Angeles, I think he surpasses Michael Jordan. If Kevin Durant wins a title somewhere else, not along these Golden State Warriors, you really have to start looking at them differently, because you really have to start looking at those Warrior teams differently. Because those Warriors teams were a lot older. They had a lot less depth, and Kevin Durant really saved them a lot of times in the playoffs. And Steph's good. And Steph's great. But the last time Steph, Draymond, and Klay played together in the NBA Finals, they lost to the Cavs. They lost to LeBron and Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love. And if they didn't get Kevin Durant, you take away Kevin Durant, those games were pretty close. Most of the games were close, and then Kevin Durant was the difference. That's what happened. So his legacy should be assured. He's been great. He's won the 2 finals MVPs. It's been awesome for him. It's been a fun ride for Kevin Durant, but apparently it hasn't. And Durant wants to get real validations that he can't get if he stays. Even though Kevin Durant knows he's been a key cog to them winning, even though Kevin Durant knows he's the best player on that team, it's not his team. It's Steph's team. It still is, and it will always be Steph's team because Steph was there first, and Steph was the one who ended the drought in San Francisco for the Warriors in the Bay Area. He was the one who did it. He'll always be that hero. And Kevin Durant will never get out of Steph Curry's shadow. If he wants the real validation, he has to leave. And that's why Kevin Durant is going to leave. Kevin Durant could win 7 titles. And people are still going to be like, well, it's still the softest move in NBA history. That's true. And he'll never be seen as one of the greatest because of it. So, where can Kevin Durant go and why? So, the Knicks are a great option, but I don't think he'll fit there. The Knicks have one of the toughest fan bases to play for. When they're successful, everything's bigger in New York. I've heard people talk about this. When you bring up the Knicks, it's Madison Square Garden. You see Lynn's sanity. You see how popular Carmelo was for years, even though he wasn't that great at basketball anymore. That Amari Stoudemire team, they were awesome. They were fun. They were in New York. They were winning. It was crazy. But I can't really see Kevin Durant fitting in with that New York news media. Look at A-Rod. It's very similar to that. A-Rod was an ultra-talented baseball player. Regardless of steroids, he was. And that media poked and jabbed at him every day. And he'd shell up because of it. And I think that's similar to what can happen to a temperamental athlete like Kevin Durant. You look at that. You look at the players who can go there with him. There's a lot of free agents. But I know Klay's not leaving. I think they can get... I think Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant have something in the works. And I think they're both 2 of the most temperamental athletes on the planet. And I don't think that goes well in New York. So no. The Nets have the cap space to bring in a couple max contracts. I think D'Angelo Russell's shown that he has star potential and that he can be a person who can lead a franchise because he led a team to the playoffs. You bring Kevin Durant in, bring a championship to Brooklyn, big time, and it's possible. And Kevin Durant is probably the missing link to making that team a 2 or 3 seed and possibly a title contender. I think you add Kevin Durant to that, they're competing for a 1 or 2 seed in the East. Because Kevin Durant's that good of a basketball player. Then you go down to the final place and where he probably should stay. The Warriors. I think the Warriors are the best option. I think leaving that team is ridiculous. And I see no reason why he should. So, yeah, those are the 3 places he can go. The Knicks give him true validation. The Nets would give him a little less of that true validation because winning a championship in New York's bigger, but staying with the Warriors and winning 5 or 6 is probably the best course of action he can do. So, lastly, before this show ends, I want to talk about some sports drama. Jesus, our athletes dramatic, aren't they? We're going to go, it's going to be my weekly quick hit on stories. We've got some stuff to talk about. It's fun. So to start, AB and JUJU, this is one of the worst feuds ever from a standpoint that it shouldn't be a thing. So, Antonio Brown tweeted some stuff about being a Raider. A guy tweeted that Juju Smith was a picture of Juju Smith, Steelers team MVP. We don't need you. And he said, emotion, fumble. That boy cost us everything, and he lotta. He lost us the game. Lotta. AB did that. And then a couple hours later, Juju Smith said, I don't know where that's coming from. I've never done anything to talk bad about you. I've always been respectful to you. I looked up to you at one point, and it hurts that you feel this way about me after all the things we've been through and all the things we talked about. Very respectful, very personal, very, truthful answer, a very emotional, raw answer. And then AB, Antonio Brown, this idiot, this big-chested dummy, posts a picture of a DM from, I want to say, 3 years ago. And it was Juju. Smith sent a picture of himself so he knew who it was. And he said, "Hey, AB, I'm a college receiver. My name's Juju. I play at the University of Southern California. I'm just wondering if there's any tips you see in my game, or if you can take a look at my game and offer me some tips. I just want some advice to see what I can do to take my game to the next level. Appreciate you, and I look up to you." Once again, and AB posted ... mic drop onto the next one. No, it was onto the next one, ... mic, like a mic drop. And AB lost the argument himself. And this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. I like Juju Smith a lot, and I think all this talk Antonio Brown's doing is lighting a fire under the Steelers that was not needed for me as a Browns fan. Am I worried? No. But as a Browns fan, I'm like, come on, AB. You left. Let us have some fun. Let the Browns be good. And you're going to make these Steelers all mad. You're going to make them all united like they weren't. So, thank you, Antonio Brown. I think it's dumb. I think the Raiders are in trouble with this guy. I think this move's looking more and more like the Steelers won, getting him out of the locker room, and I think that's hilarious. The next sports drama is Aaron and the Packers. So over the last couple weeks, Aaron Rodgers has been getting roasted by former teammates, and this Bleacher Report article came out, and it was detailing a lot of issues former players have had with Aaron Rodgers and the way people saw Aaron Rodgers. And a lot of them said he's a prima donna. He was hard to work with. He was petty ever since he was drafted. And Mike McCarthy was on a different team, and he said that they liked Alex Smith more, that he was petty for that. And depending on who you ask, if you ask coaches, Mike McCarthy is one of the best, one of the nicest, hardest working dudes in the league. And if you ask current players, Aaron Rodgers is someone they really admire and respect. So there's a lot of talk going on, and from listening and reading through the internet, believing which side, it's always, so there's two sides to every story, and usually the truth lies in the middle. That's what they say. So, in reality, I think it was two guys who were petty towards each other. I think Aaron Rodgers can be a little arrogant. There's a reason his family's not talking to him, and there's a reason his family doesn't really like him anymore. You look at Mike McCarthy. I think Mike McCarthy as a coach could have done some things to advance the offense and modernize it and fit it more to Aaron's traits and strengths. You look at a lot of these RPOs and a lot of that stuff going on today, and Aaron Rodgers could be dominating the league with a lot of these modern offensive schemes, and they wouldn't do that. And I think if you hear the quote about the president of operations for the Green Bay Packers, and that was pretty damning to Aaron Rodgers, where he said, "Aaron, we hired the guy. It's Matt LaFleur. Don't be a problem." And it took 2 months for Aaron to introduce himself to the new coach. I don't even think the words, "I'm excited to work with him," came out of Aaron Rodgers' mouth. I think Aaron Rodgers thinks he's better than the game. And when you think you're better than the game and the grind, it always comes back and bites you. So you look at Tom Brady, his direct comparison, the dude is all in all the time. It never feels like Aaron Rodgers is all in, does it? So you see the State Farm commercials. You see him dating Danica Patrick. Tom Brady's dating a world-renowned supermodel. And you watch anything Tom Brady does, it's about football all the time. I don't even know what Aaron Rodgers is thinking half the time, but I know Tom Brady's always thinking about football. But Aaron finally commented back and said that the Bleacher Report article was a smear campaign. And in a way, it kind of was. A lot of articles are being written with a one-sided slant, whether it's politically, whether it's a point of view, whether it's an argument. And you could look at some documentaries, and they want you to think, oh, maybe it happened this way, or maybe it happened this way. It's called framing. It's a psychological thing that happens. It's a way you see stuff, and it's a way someone wants you to view it. See, I want you guys to view it holistically. I am thematically framing this because I want you guys to think of this problem for yourselves. I think there's problems inside the Packers organization that aren't being looked at, and I think Aaron Rodgers is one of those problems. I think he gets away with too much. The Packers don't have a traditional structure of leadership with an owner. They're owned by everybody. They're owned by the public. They have a president. They have a general manager. They have all that stuff, but there's not a voice bigger than them. The roster's not great. Aaron Rodgers doesn't have any help. He ad-libs a lot, and he never seems to play within the system when it matters most. And that's because it seems to me like Aaron Rodgers is taking things into his own hands. And there is this interesting thing that Jason Whitlock said on Speak for Yourself a couple weeks ago, his show on Fox Sports 1. And it was about Big Ben and LeBron James being these guys who, for whatever reason, had to do it on their own. Big Ben was an example. He didn't get to start at quarterback in high school till his senior year, which led to him not getting recruited the way he probably should have as a talented quarterback he was. And that's probably stuck with Ben, and that's why Ben doesn't trust coaches. And that's why Ben is an ad-libber, and that's why sometimes Ben takes things into his own hands and takes things so personally. Because it was something that happened to him in his developmental years. LeBron has never had he never had his dad in his life. So having coaches is great, and they've been great father figures to him. But in the NBA, he's done it all on his own. He's done it all on his own his whole life. He's done it with his mom. He doesn't really have never had that male figure in his life besides coaches. And coming from his background where he raised, he was sort of always like, I got to get mine, you know? And that's that's fine. And that made him the way he is. And LeBron's done so much for so many other people that you can't discredit that he doesn't care. But when it comes to his own personal success and when it comes to the way he wants to win, it's got to be done his way. Now, Aaron Rodgers, to me, fits in that same category. And Aaron Rodgers was a guy, undersized in high school, little spindly dude. Finally hit a growth spurt, started playing quarterback, was pretty good in high school. Went to a junior college in Northern California. I can't remember the college. I think it was Sarah Junior College. That might not be correct, but regardless, he went to a junior college, Butte Community College, and it is near his hometown, Chico, California. And he's always going to have that chip on the shoulder because guess what? He's always had to do it his own way. And he was never good enough. Even in his NFL draft, there was quarterbacks taken before him, and he fell all the way to 22. He has always been overlooked, and now that he's the man, he wants to do it his way. And I think that's the biggest problem that we're seeing with Aaron Rodgers. And that's why he can't get along with the coach. And that's why sometimes he's a prima donna, and sometimes it is because he knows how good he is now. And he knows that he can win games on his own, but that's not how you win the big games. There's a reason he's only had one Super Bowl and his career's been a disappointment. And that's because Aaron Rodgers is incapable of trusting leaders for that reason. Because he doesn't think people know what they're talking about because no one gave him a chance when he felt like he deserved it. So there's the NFL sports drama, and then the last sports drama. So there's a player poll done by The Athletic. It's a great sports website. If you haven't subscribed to it, it's the best for all teams' coverages. They don't have everyone yet, but they're working their way up to it. I have been a subscriber for, I think, going on a year now. One of the best decisions I've made. Two of my favorite writers on it from Cleveland sports and local papers, right, are Ari Wasserman and Bill Landis, are writers for the Ohio State team. So give it a look. It's cool. It's fun. It's not that expensive. And if you really do truly love sports, it's the best reading experience because they only have the best. So moving forward, the last set of sports drama is this player poll done by The Athletic, the NBA Athletic. So going through, we're just going to go through them. The players voted. They took 30% of the league's players, gave them this poll. They answered these questions anonymously. So MVP was pretty clear cut, who the players think. It's interesting, sometimes players will give it to a guy you don't really expect. But Harden's their first choice, and Giannis is their second choice. I think that's pretty fair. I think Giannis deserves it a little bit more, but highlighting the last couple months, James Harden's been pretty good, and they've been winning a lot. So, looking at how James Harden has played the last couple months, I do think either one of those guys are fully deserving. So I think the players are dead on this one. The next one, the one that really stirred the pot, and I still see people talking about it on social media 4 or 5 days later from its release, and it's Westbrook and Draymond Green being the most overrated. So they got 34% of the votes of these players, and one of these players is absolutely overrated, and one of these players is absolutely not overrated. So I'm going to start with the one who is overrated, and that is Draymond Green. Draymond Green is just a grinder who got fit into a perfect position with two of the best players in the league at the time, in Klay Thompson and Steph. And then you add Kevin Durant to that mix. Now Draymond can do a lot of things on a basketball court good, but he can't do anything on a basketball court great. Over the last couple of years, he's become a terrible shooter and a guy you can leave open a lot of the time. I think his mouth does more for him than any other parts of his skill set. And I think the only true ability he brings to a court is being able to defend 1 through 5. And he passes all right. He rebounds, I guess. He's like averaging like 7, 7, and 6. It's not great. Then Westbrook, and I'm a Westbrook hater. I'll be fully honest and forthright with it. I think he's very temperamental too. I think getting into it with a fan, yes, these guys are prodded like cattle with insults and remarks, and it's unfair, but you got to handle yourself better. And a lot of the times he's a little testy with the media, and there's a lot of things that he does that I don't like. I think he takes too many jump shots, and he's got a terrible jump shot, and he can't make free throws, and he's a guard, and guards are usually supposed to be the best at making free throws. So, with all his faults, he's pretty goddamn good at basketball. Because there's not a single way you can go 3 years and average 20, 10, and 10 and be bad at basketball. There's no way that's overrated. The best stat patters in the league can't do that. And is he the most skillful guy? No. But does he bring a relentlessness and an effort to all 82 games of a year that I wish all the best players in the league would bring? Yes. There's only like 2 or 3 players who bring that sort of mentality every night in the NBA, and only one of them is as good and on the level of Westbrook, and that's Giannis. I think another comparable stat is what James Harden did for that time when Chris Paul was out. But guess what? He only did that while Chris Paul was out. He didn't do it for 3 straight years. So Westbrook's not overrated. The Jordan GOAT debate. People are prisoners of the moment. LeBron's in a down year. Is Jordan the GOAT? Yes, right now. I still think by the time it's all said and done, LeBron will be. I think the players voting last year probably would have made it closer than it was this year. I think people are prisoners of the moment, but I also think there's no way I'm going to rate my peer as the greatest of all time while I'm still playing with them. I think once people aren't blinded by the fact that he was known for that 3-6 finals record when he's not known for that and he's just seen as what he truly accomplished throughout the league, it's going to be different. I don't like this one, so I'm going to move on to the next one. The best fighter, James Johnson. Here's some interesting stats. I didn't know this, but James Johnson has 7 karate titles to his name, a 20-0 kickboxing record, and a 7-0 MMA record. There's a video of Serge Ibaka testing him, and James Johnson gets a quick slap and a left in real quick, and Serge Ibaka wanted none of it. Because as big and as tough as Serge Ibaka is, there's a difference between a professional fighter and a strong guy. So now the last one I'm going to talk about is coach players want to play for beside their own. The first one is Greg Popovich. And I know for a goddamn fact that is a lie. Half the NBA is way too soft to handle playing for Greg Popovich. So that is absolutely not true. The amount of stuff you have to give to Greg Popovich and the amount of stuff you have to take, because Greg Popovich is as old school as it gets in the NBA these days. Greg Popovich is tough. Greg Popovich is going to make you feel bad about yourself, but he's also going to make you feel great when you get there. And you really have to give everything to be in that sort of organization. So, yeah, I don't think anyone could handle it. So, Brad Stevens is the next one, and I think Brad Stevens does get the best out of his players, but he can't handle a star. So if you're not a star player, I'd totally understand why you'd want to play for Brad Stevens. Look what he did with Terry Rozier. Look what he's done with Morris. Look what he's done with Smart. Look what he's done. He gets all this production from these lesser players. Jason Tatum is a rookie. It's awesome. But he can't handle stars. I'll be real. I'm going to go through the 3 right answers to this question. The first correct answer is Steve Kerr. The dude's managed 4 stars for 4. Now Kevin Durant's on year 3. So he's managed 4 stars for 3 years and 3 stars for like 5 or 6. So Steve Kerr's a great coach. Steve Kerr's got a very player-friendly ideology in his coaching methods. Now, granted, the Warriors are one of the most high IQ basketball teams in the history of the NBA, but Steve Kerr's a big part of the reason why that is the way it is. The next one's Mike Budenholzer. Mike Budenholzer was that former coach for the Hawks who could not get past LeBron, and now he's coaching the Bucks. Mike Budenholzer's been an NBA guy for a long time, and he spent 18 seasons with the San Antonio Spurs under head coach Greg Popovich. Mike Budenholzer's a great coach. You can see what happens. He can get a mismatched group like those Hawks teams of the past, or a team like the Bucks who were right there and take them to the next level. The Bucks have the best record in the NBA, and that wouldn't have happened if Mike Budenholzer didn't take over. And then the last one, and I really like Quinn Snyder, but I think a lot of people forget how good of a job he's actually doing in Utah, because at the end of the day, the Jazz aren't really the greatest roster, and he's had them in playoff contention the last couple of years, and I think I think they're fun to watch. I think they're an interesting team. And you look at the team: Donovan Mitchell, Ricky Rubio, Kyle Korver, Rudy Gobert, Grayson Allen, Joe Ingles, Derek Favors, Tavo Cephalosha, Jay Crowder, Dante Exum, Raul Neto. That list sort of goes on, but that's not a roster of world beaters here, and he's had them really competitive and really good. And it's very similar to me on what Mike Budenholzer did with the Hawks. And if you give him a player like Giannis Antetokounmpo and get a team around that player, he can really be one of the best coaches in the league. I really like Quinn Snyder, I really like Mike Budenholzer, and I really like Steve Kerr. Those are the three best options that players should want to play for. Those three guys right there, they get the best out of you. So that's going to be it for today. Real quick, we'll check the ESPN Tournament Challenge. There's a guy who said he's won it. I don't believe it because he did not have the same champion as the person who did win it. He had Tech losing, so I don't think that can be right. Let's go look at the Mom's Basement Sports groups. So the winner was SA111186 with Virginia winning. And the guy who messaged me on Instagram said, with Tech losing, I still think I won. But I don't think that was the right bracket group he's talking about. So we'll figure that one out. And lastly, my outro. Listen to Pints. Follow me at Chris_Renne. Officially, I changed my name to Chris Renne MB on everything. Chris Renne Mom's Basement. So follow me at Chris Renne MB from here on out. And like us on Facebook at Mom's Basement Prod, and then follow us on Instagram and Twitter at MBasementProd. Listen to Pints at the Round Table. Follow Pints at the Round Table on Twitter at MB Pints and Instagram at Pints at the Round Table 1. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube today. Thanks for listening once again. This is your host, and I am out.